If I had a nickel for every time two movies came out within months of each other with eerily similar themes, I'd have 2 nickels, which isn't a lot, but it's weird that it's happened twice, right? In December of 2025, gaming YouTuber Markiplier released a trailer for his first ever feature film, Iron Lung, cosmic horror based on a video game of the same name. It's dark, it's got an almost comedic amount of blood to it, and it explores a lot of themes, mainly sacrifice, punishment, freedom, and fighting for humanity. It was released to theaters worldwide in January of 2026, becoming what I'd consider the first of its kind, a self-funded indie film made from passion and determination by a YouTuber. If you want more thoughts on Iron Lung specifically, you should check out my Substack. And then, a few months later, in March of 2026, out came Project Hail Mary, a sci-fi blockbuster hit by Amazon Studios starring the effortlessly charming Ryan Gosling, based on a book of the same name. This film was built on more scientific exploration and logic, something the novel's author Andy Weir is known for.
So that planet is a real exoplanet. It actually exists.
Wow.
Yeah. And it just because we're now able to find planets on other stars. It's really cool. I love the future. It's awesome. And so that's a real exoplanet that I chose to be his the homeworld. And then I started, I took all the information that we know about that exoplanet and said, okay, that's set in stone. That's canon. Anything that we don't know, I could just make up.
It's not a horror film like Iron Lung, unless you're particularly claustrophobic, yet it explored almost similar themes to Iron Lung: sacrifice, freedom, and fighting for humanity and beyond in their case. So naturally, online fandom spaces quickly began shipping Markiplier with Ryan Gosling.
And then this burden will be lifted off my shoulders. I'll finally be able to escape the blood ocean and curl up in Ryan Gosling's arms and just, I'm safe.
It's something we see happen a lot in fandoms. 2 similar guys in similar positions being shipped together, paired together in a romantic sense at least. If you're watching a video essay like this, I'm gonna go into the assumption that you know what shipping is. I've been following this ship, dubbed Bloody Mary by fans, yes, it's as funny as it sounds, for a little bit because it's a fascinating bit of internet culture that's taking form right before our very eyes. It's like watching an entire ecosystem begin to evolve around you. At first glance, these 2 characters have nothing in common. Simon's story is bloody and violent against cosmic horrors that threaten humanity. Grace's story is hopeful but still tense, and in the end, everyone lives happily ever after. Or, well, a good chunk of humanity has probably starved by then and they had to nuke Antarctica, but hey, at least there's hope for a new beginning. But that's just a basic read, isn't it? Because if you dig a little deeper, both of these characters are incredibly similar in ways one wouldn't expect. And these are the similarities that brought fans together with the same united thought. What if they kissed? But is that really all they had in common? Or is there more to this than we think to what role fanfiction can play, and how maybe fanfiction can be a bit more analytical than people think? This video is sponsored by me. Just kidding. I'm gonna give a little brief shout out to my members here instead. They help make these things possible. They help make my videos possible. And I feel a little upset that I haven't been able to release an original video for a bit. So shout out to these members on screen. If you're interested in becoming a member, I have been brainstorming some members only content that will hopefully be coming soon. Okay, now for real, on with the show.
And now, our feature presentation.
Let's first start with the similarities of these stories. Both of them start out with our main characters stuck in metaphorical tin cans, the Hail Mary and the SM-13, nicknamed the Iron Lung. Violent Grace wakes up with no memories in a large spaceship he later discovers is about 12 light years away from Earth. His story evolves as he tries to remember and discover what happened to him and why he's on this ship in the first place. The reason he is on that ship is to find a way to stop the astrophage, an alien life force that was acting like algae on our sun, dimming it down, and putting life on Earth under threat of destruction in a possible mass extinction event. But why him? Why was a school teacher picked for this program and sent into space? That's the mystery the movie starts with. While the Hail Mary is big, Grace is still trapped. He is, after all, in space, and was put in a medically induced coma to survive the 16 or so Earth years it took out to get to Tau Ceti. There's nowhere for him to go. He's trapped. The mystery of Simon and the SM-13 are even stranger. When Iron Lung starts, we don't even know our main protagonist is named Simon until much further along in the film. We hear about him through other characters and can put together a backstory just by everyone referencing him as as the convict. So Simon was placed in the SM-13, the Iron Lung, as a punishment for wrongdoing. It was meant to be his way to atone for whatever he did, and once he helped the researchers out, he would be freed. See, in Simon's world, the suns all died out one day. Nobody knows why. This is called the Quiet Rapture. At the same time, moons with oceans of blood began to appear all over the galaxy, and as humans are dying out and turning on each other, the hope for salvation might be in these blood moons, right? It's the only thing humans can figure is connected to the stars dying out. His space is much smaller than the Hail Mary. The movie is shot in a purposefully claustrophobic style. The set was a real thing, not something that Markiplier was just green screened into. Both are real sets technically, but just look at the inside of the Iron Lung. There were limits for the camera inside this thing, but Markiplier and his team pulled it off well and got some very interesting angles. In the story too, Simon is literally welded into the Iron Lung. He can't escape. Even the promise of freedom is partially based on a lie, as both characters end up becoming sacrifices for the greater good. That's one of the bigger connections people make between the two of them. Simon and Grace are both sent out as unwilling sacrifices. We find out in both films how unwilling they are later on. Simon was wrongfully blamed for a crime he did not commit and in fact tried to stop. Grace was not even the first choice for the astronauts to be sent in the first place, but one of the main team passed away in an unfortunate accident with astrophage that blew up like half their researchers a week before launch. He was literally hunted down like a dog and put into his coma early. Eva Stratt, the woman in charge of the Hail Mary project, was not going to give him a choice. Both of the characters are sacrifices because the people who made their final decision on their lives did not see them as fulfilled or worthy people. Simon was a convict. He was a prisoner. This was an alternative punishment to imprisonment, but also because they were losing so many submarine pilots to the depths of the Blood Ocean. His life was viewed as less valuable by the Consolidation of Iron, the COI, the group that has him imprisoned, because he's not on their side. So why not throw this prisoner who killed people on their side into the depths of a blood ocean as punishment? Who cares if he dies? That's the point of Simon's character. He's a fall man for his own group, Eden. He took the blame for something he did not do, and he was viewed as lesser. All Simon wanted to do was live, but that basic right was denied to him. And then we have Grace. He does not have any family in the film or any sort of line of interest or really any friends outside of the Hail Mary project. He's a teacher, he has students and kids he's cared for, but his connection to a lot of people outside of his employment is incredibly small. As Stratt even says,
"You have no immediate family. You don't even have a dog."
So a young man with no spouse, partner, friends, pets, or known family is seen as less. Any fully grown adult, for that matter, is seen as lesser than another if they don't have any connections near him. The other astronauts volunteered for this mission knowing it was a suicide mission. They know they would not make it. In the book, there's even a whole section where the astronauts are talking about the various ways they will kill themselves, essentially, when the mission is complete.
Ilyukina, how about you? She set her beer down. I want heroin.
And Grace wasn't even the first choice again. He was just a researcher. He was recruited by Stratt like everyone else, but he still did not have a choice to go. When the original astronaut dies, there was no one other than him that could go. Other scientists had families. They weren't fully trained. They had people who would miss them. But Grace was alone. He was, like Simon, seen as lesser because of what situation in society he was in. Maybe not that his life was worthless in the same ways that Simon's was, but something strikingly similar. We also have the element of the themes of the movies being very similar in tone. Both are explorations of space and humanity on the brink of death and destruction, though one is a little further along than the other, you could argue. The settings they explore allow deep dives into ideas of isolation and hope, although they do very obviously different things with that. I'll talk about it in a minute. I feel like both movies also show responses to nihilism. One of them is fighting it to save others as Simon fights the blood eel to get the black box out to humanity. That black box contained information that might save his species, who can also connect with others to save them, to fight against nihilism, as Grace befriends Rocky, the alien Iridian, to save their respective stars. That's the most compelling comparison you can make between Grace and Simon, how their stories handle sacrifice and themes. There's more little things too. Both of them have encounters with aliens, though Rocky is way more friendly than the blood eel Simon comes across. Both worlds have dying or dead stars, as I mentioned before. Both movies also have a character named Ava, the ones who send the protagonist to die, basically, which is really kind of funny that that comparison is there. But the bigger comparisons, the themes of sacrifice, how both characters are sacrifices, are where I believe people tend to tie these stories together. Now, don't get me wrong, despite how many similarities there are between the two stories, Project Hail Mary and Iron Lung are incredibly different from each other. The biggest difference is, of course, the genre, or film subgenres, technically speaking, as they're both sci-fi set in space. Project Hail Mary is a sci-fi film through and through. It is based off a novel of the same name again by Andy Weir, and the book itself dives into deeper, more realistic science that would have made this film hypothetically possible. Weir himself is a computer programmer and spent years learning about astronomy in his free time in order to write his books, both this book and The Martian as well, as he wanted it to be pretty realistic. It's also by far a much more hopeful film. On the other hand, we have Iron Lung. Iron Lung is first a horror movie, specifically cosmic horror. Cosmic horror is also called Lovecraftian horror, and it often explores ideas of existential dread and incomprehensible fear. The writer H.P. Lovecraft is credited as starting the genre, thus the other name for it, though I much prefer using the term cosmic horror given, just look up the name of H.P. Lovecraft's cats. Iron Lung is dark and gritty. It's a dystopia. Stars have died out for no discernible reason, humanity is on its last legs, and what little remains have turned on each other. It's the other side of the coin of Project Hail Mary, where the first story is lighter and more comedic, the other is dark, dangerous, and deadly. The tones of the two films are not in the same family, nor are they distantly related. Iron Lung takes time to emphasize the solitude that Simon goes through, and how in times of strife, humans can easily turn on each other. It's almost like the bad end to Project Hail Mary. But sometimes it's the idea of opposites that attract more. One way is how the characters are opposites of each other. Simon is a prisoner, a convict. We don't even know his name until more than halfway through the film. He's being punished for something he didn't do. Some people have also interpreted Eden, the group that he was born into, as a cult, and I can kind of see where they get that from. There's a very religious undertone to Eden, starting from the name being the same name as the Garden of Eden mentioned in the Bible, the paradise that humanity had to leave behind after the original sin. He is cynical, but he's also terrified. He's determined to survive and willing to fight for it. Even when he dies, he still dies fighting. Grace, on the other hand, is a teacher. He's a researcher. Fundamentally, he's optimistic, at least in comparison to Simon, but also fundamentally, he's a coward. He did not get on the Hail Mary to sacrifice himself willingly to save humanity. He was chased down, knocked into a coma early, and forced onto the ship to save humanity. In the books, he's even given an experimental drug that would induce amnesia, so by the time he and the other two astronauts hypothetically woke up on the ship, he wouldn't remember that he was unwilling until it was far too late. His background as a teacher impacts how he deals with his stress and his interactions with the other humans in his flashbacks and Rocky in the present. He's largely empathetic and doesn't fight. He uses research and logic to make his decisions. Another way the films are different are the endings. Both films end in dramatically different ways, but like mentioned before, the way they end is also kind of similar, though not in tone. Maybe vibes is the best way to describe it. They both vibe hopefully in a way. Yeah, I found Iron Lung hopeful. Let me explain. Obviously, Simon dies, so do quite a few people before him and after him. The world sucks. Everyone is fighting everyone, but there's this underlying note, even if it's quiet, that rejects nihilism. Even if everything sucks, there's still something to be done about it. At first, Simon fights for his freedom. That's all he wants, is to be free, but that's not possible for him. At the very end, when he realizes the promise of freedom will be fulfilled, he doesn't sit around and mope. He faces the monsters of the Blood Ocean head on, fights back and attaches his ship's black box to a life vest with the hope that it makes it to the surface. He sacrifices himself, mutates, and becomes the Blood Tree at the very end, which destroys him and the SM-13, but the Blood Eel as well. Project Hail Mary is a softer rejection of nihilism in terms of aesthetics. There's no blood or gore like Iron Lung, but it rejects the nihilism and isolation one would expect to find in the setting. Our son is going to die, Grace gets hired to figure out how to stop it, and ends up forced into a suicide mission. But in the process of that suicide mission, he encounters Rocky, the alien from the distant planet of Arid, who is also having the same problem with the astrophage. The two of them work together to solve the mystery of this alien life form and try to save their stars. The bond that forms between them is a beautiful thing, and a rejection of ideas that lead people to believe that humanity is a destructive force. Humans are empathetic and seek connection, and it seems to be universal, as even the non-human Iridians seek connection. The biggest sacrifice Grace makes is not with his life, it's with his chance to go home. The Iridians arrived at Tau Ceti first with a lot of astrophage. Rocky can live a long time, but he recognizes that Grace can't, and when he learns that Grace was never meant to go home, he gives up some of his astrophage supplies to allow Grace to go home, at the cost of him returning a couple years behind schedule. Grace accepts, but after they part ways, he discovers something something that would put Rocky in danger. And like Orpheus, he turned around to save Eurydice. This time, he was successful at the cost of returning to Earth, his home. But to be fair to Grace, he did not really have anything or anyone waiting at home. The kids he was forced to leave would be fully grown by then. His adult friends would be much older, as would he. I mean, maybe he'd be hailed as a hero, but he didn't have any more connection to Earth, unlike the connection he had to Arid through Rocky. Even though the stories end in different ways, they still have the same vibes. With all these differences, though, why are people still drawn to these two characters together? I think it's a lot deeper than some people may think. As I've said multiple times through this video, I realize that now. While we can talk about fan fiction as an expression of passion for a story that fans really love, I think something that goes undiscussed is the idea that fan fiction can be a form of literary analysis. Not all of it is, don't get me wrong, but I feel like fan fiction can be used as an exploration of characters' themes, can sometimes act as a critique as well. How many rewriting X story pieces are out there? How many people take this thing they're a fan of, put their own twist on it, and try to make something new with it? It's a creative form of interpretation. It's analysis without using the analytical dialogue from text to text. It's almost like analysis from inside the story instead of looking at it from the outside. And I think that Bloody Mary, this crossover ship with Ryan Gosling and Markiplier, acts as a very fun dissection of just this idea. When you look at it on paper, the Bloody Mary ship is pretty nonsensical. It's a crossover between two diametrically opposed sci-fi stories released in 2026. The only thing that you could argue brings them together on the surface is that they are both set in space. But when you engage with the media, when you look at the similarities and differences like I just did, you'll see what lies beneath. The things that the fans have picked up and noticed. The theme, the story, the underlying message of hope and survival, the rejection of nihilism. Even with different endings and genres, people were still attached to these stories and the characters, and as a result, the ship formed. I'd like us to consider a very silly idea here. What if the ship itself of Ryland Grace and Simon the Convict was the literary analysis? Fanfictions are works engaging with the text they're inspired by. Crossover fanfictions are engaging with two different texts and seeing where they can fit together. Having Dr. Grace save Simon from his bad ending, or having Simon end up on Arid shortly after Grace's story was over, all come through a very similar filter beyond the gay romantic pairing. It's about healing. These works that basically pluck Simon out of his horrifying nightmare and into the thick arms of Ryan Gosling are explorations of healing after tragedy, even if the writers aren't intending to do that. And why? It's simple. We like happy endings. Even the edgelords who like dark and scary stuff can't deny it, even if they say so online. Happy endings are satisfying. Not always, but a lot of the time. It brings everything into a nice conclusion, and we as humans like things that are nice. When Simon didn't have a happy ending, when he sacrificed his life to bring information to the surface of the blood ocean, while the audience recognizes how heavy that sacrifice is, there's also an underlying wish to give Simon a happy ending, one where he doesn't have to die. Enter Ryland Grace. His ending is happy even if it's not him returning to Earth. He returns to Arid with Rocky, a successful Orpheus, and live out the rest of his life in a biodome of Earth. Is it perfect? No, he's literally eating his own cloned meat, which isn't talked about in the film, but he's able to do what he loves, and that's teach. He has a friend, Rocky. He has a community he feels like he can rely upon instead of the cold distance of Earth who forced him into the stars to die for him. He gets a happy ending, so why can't Simon? Eventually, fans decided to find a way to merge these two stories together so they could explore what a happy ending for Simon could look like. He's rescued and saved either by eldritch beings who have bigger plans for him, or maybe a more ideal, caring universe, and he is brought under the care of Ryland Grace. While Grace is not perfect, oftentimes in these fanfictions he's also a bit of a mess too. It's about that connection the two characters can give each other. It's about how similar their stories, traumas, and pasts can unite them into a relationship, platonic or otherwise. Now, of course, the ship does have problems like everything does, but I still think it's a very fun way to do a creative literary analysis. And I don't want to speak for all fan fiction writers out there, of course, but writing can often be a way for people to explore their own traumas, fears, and experiences of the world. And in writing, people can find and create hope for themselves. Maybe if Simon and Grace, two broken people, can magically find each other and heal, maybe they can one day too. Of course, it's not reality, but it's a way for people to explore reality on their own time with their own words and thoughts. And I think that it's just really, really cool. Wow, great ending to a section. See, this ship, as silly as I claim it to be, isn't just a trend. It's not just a surface level, ooh, what if this happened? This ship is an excellent example of fanfiction as analysis, noticing the similar themes in these stories, even providing commentary on the differences, and responding to the stories in a way that is more typical than an essay looking into the themes or color, or a video essay talking about the acting. It is funny though. It's just so funny to see Ryan Gosling being shipped with Markiplier though. I didn't really write that much of a conclusion here because I was getting a little tired. But yeah, I kind of liked it, you know, kind of like just doing a little brief deep dive into the Bloody Mary ship. Some people have released videos on the ship before this. I tried to avoid watching them, but I'll leave them linked down below if people are more curious. But I think that the idea of looking at fan fiction as a way to interpret stories and act as literary and media analysis is something worth discussing. And I thought the Bloody Mary ship was a perfect way to do it because it's basically doing it on its own without people knowing. I hope you guys liked this video. If you like it, be sure to like, share, and subscribe. I will be having more videos coming out, a little more consistency soon. I promise, I swear. I will see you guys next time. Take care of yourselves, and as always, keep your head in the clouds. Bye-bye!